Welcome to Season 6 of the QueerAF Podcast. Wow, thank you so much for filling out this gorgeous room with so many wonderful faces. I'm Jamie Wareham. I created QueerAF 3 years ago because I was fed up with the way the media works, and I know that everyone in this room probably agrees with me. So thank you for continuing to support our mission. What I love about this podcast is that it started with National Student Pride 8 years ago, if you will, as a Launchpad project. And now here we are with our very own Launchpad project, having helped set up another social enterprise. And so I think it's a really wonderful full circle moment for us to be here for a second year in a row, recording a special live podcast recording. So I think we should get that started. So please welcome to the stage, Anthony Lexa and Abigail Thorn.
Well, welcome to the award-winning QueerAF podcast, back for season 6, as introduced by Jamie. For those of you who are seeing us live or on your feed for the first time, it's been giving marginalised queer audio professionals mentoring, their first paid gigs, and this year, thanks to the support from Publicist Group UK, equipment that they get to keep for life. So also they can be beautiful mini documentaries for you to listen to. So thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for listening. I am Anthony Lexa. I'm an actor and songwriter, and you might know me from Sex Education. And for this special live podcast recording at the Trans Plus History Week Community Event 2025, I'm joined by the incredible actress and writer Abigail Thorn. Yes, thank you. You may know her from House of Dragon or her YouTube alias PhilosophyTube, which has amassed over 1.64 million subscribers and a cult following online, including myself. So it's actually lovely to be sitting down with Abigail in a nice full circle moment after being last year's guest for the QueerAF podcast at the event with my co-star, Felix Mufti, and check that out if you haven't listened to it already. It's been a heavy month. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it has been a heavy month in trans news stories, so it just feels a bit joyful to be sat here today, celebrating trans history with someone I've looked up to since I was a teenager. And for the next 25 minutes or so, let's get lost in some of the joy and positive trans plus media representation that will continue to play a big role in the fight ahead. How does that sound? Have a little bit of joy for a bit. Perfect. Now, to start, a lot of people will know you from your YouTube work, as we said. Mm-hmm. So more recently, it's actually your acting work that's been front and center. So I want to start there.
Cool.
When did you start getting into acting?
I've been acting since I was a little kid, as long as I can remember. And well before I started YouTube. And I went to drama school while I was still making the YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel actually sort of paid my rent while I was training. And then it just sort of happened that YouTube sort of blew up first. But my first sort of professional acting gigs after I came out of drama school, I was doing some voiceover, I was doing some theatre here and there. And then along the way, I also came out. And I thought, that's going to be the end of both of my careers now. And then it wasn't actually. Like shortly after I came out publicly, I got cast in a comedy role on BBC. And then I did a period piece. I did the cowboy show Django on Sky and Catellia and Netflix. And then it was like Star Wars and House of the Dragon and The Prince and everything else. So it's been something I've been doing ever since I can remember, really.
So it's always been like one of the main passions for you?
Yeah, definitely. I remember thinking when I was at university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I went through everything I did and asked myself, how would I feel if somebody told me I could never do this again? And at the time I was studying philosophy, and I thought, if somebody told me I could never study philosophy again, I'd be a little bit upset, but I'd probably live. And I was doing stand-up comedy too, and someone said, if you could never do stand-up comedy again, I'd be relieved. I hate doing this, actually. It sucks. And then I got to acting, and I was like, if somebody told me I was never allowed to act again, I wouldn't want to live that way. So I thought, I guess that's what I got to do. I got to be an actor.
I like that. I like almost finding passion and finding love through what you couldn't live without doing.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I go up and say that as well in this industry. I'm like, I don't think I tried to get into acting. I just feel like I can't do anything else.
Yeah,
like what I mean.
You've got to want to do it, right? I think you can't just be like, I think maybe I'll do acting because it's like such an easy thing to do. It's like, no, it's like impossible unless you are like so driven. Talking
of not easy, what did it feel like to be part of such a huge franchise like the Game of Thrones franchise?
Honestly, it was an honor. It's an honor to be like part of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. Like it's everyone involved in that show is so lovely, and everyone in the cast and crew will tell you this, that like there's nobody who's the asshole, or and people usually say if nobody's the asshole, it's you, right? And I don't think it's me. I hope it's not me.
That was the role that I had to play. Yeah.
Everyone involved in it is amazingly talented and so dedicated and so kind and has been completely chill. And even the auditions for Sharako, my character on the show, were a blast. I had so much fun auditioning for that role, to the point where I walked away from the final round of the audition just being like, look, even if I don't get it, I've had so much fun doing this and I love these people so much that sometimes you go to an audition and you walk out and you go, best of luck with the project. And you don't always mean best of luck with the project. Sometimes you mean like, cast me, you bastards.
Yeah.
But that time I genuinely walked out and was like, I really hope this goes well, guys, because this is going to be amazing. From what I've seen on the page, it's going to be fantastic. And so when I got it, I was just honored. And I have expressed my gratitude to the producers many, many times because they're just lovely, lovely people. And ditto Star Wars.
Yeah, that's actually such a good tip. I always say to people who are nervous about auditions and audition processes, I'm always like, if you go in and have fun, that's like the best way of like releasing those nerves and just like getting the most out of the experience. Do you have any other kind of audition tips?
Well, the only thing they told me when I auditioned for House of the Dragon was they said she's bonkers. That's the only thing they said about the character, and I was like, okay, like I guess I'll give you guys everything I can. So I just went in there and did bonkers, and then I had to improvise a bit with one of the leads and just see how to do like a chemistry test. I just decided to just have as much fun with it as I could, and thought I might not get this, but something I always bear in mind when I go into an audition is like, even if I don't get it, I want to be the nicest and most professional person who doesn't get the job. I want them to go, oh, we really love her. She's not right for this role, but we really love her. We'll get her back for something else. And that's always the space. Like, book the room, not the gig, is what they say, right? Because you can't control whether you book the gig. It might be you're too tall or too short. It could be anything. But you can always book the room, and that's what I try to do.
I like that, book the room and commit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fun. And I think acting should be about having fun.
Yeah. You can never tell which auditions you're going to get and which I've walked out of some auditions, I'm like, smashed it. Absolutely. Yeah. Hollywood next week, baby. Multi-million-dollar. I'm going to be given like leads for shit I didn't even audition for. Nailed it. I'm that good. Laurence Olivier, fucking who? And then they're just like, yeah, you didn't make the shortlist. Get out. And I'm like,
yeah, please leave the building.
And equally, like Star Wars, I had like a big spot on my face when I went to Star Wars audition, and I'm pretty sure I had COVID, and my voice was like knackered, and I got the part. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
And have you got to do any like physical acting and kind of like combat training and anything for any roles? Because I feel like you are going for those more action-based things.
You can tell. Yeah. So season 2, I'm. Listeners who can't see me at home, I'm like quite hench at the moment for reasons I'll tell you. So season 2 of House of the Dragon, I got to do a little bit of fighting the stunt team. There's the kind of big mud wrestling scene at the end of season 2 where me and Jefferson are thrashing around in the mud and stuff. I can't say what it is, but I am about to start filming a big action thing this summer. I've got many weeks of filming a big action thing. It's basically like non-stop fighting. Which I'm really excited about, and I'm sort of having boxing lessons and sword fighting lessons like 3 times a week, and like learning to dive across things, which is also why I'm in this kind of ridiculous shape where my leather jacket is too small. And it's really exciting because I feel like, I don't know about you, but so many of the auditions I get are we allowed to swear? Okay. Which I already have, but I mean like, can we like really?
Retrospective swearing, yeah.
Cool. Can I say the T-slur? You don't look certain.
I'm going to say yeah.
Okay, cool. You can always bleep it if not. So the two roles, I don't know about you, the 2 roles that I always used to get caught up for were tranny hooker or sad tran, which is like, can you cry in the shower because your parents don't love you? And I'm like, that's it. It's like the 2 auditions are like fur coat and lingerie or crying in the shower, and that's all I got. And as far as I know, I don't think there's ever been a trans femme action star. I don't think it's happened. So I'm so excited for this role. And I said to the producers when I got it, I was like, thank you for giving me this. And because they didn't write it with a trans woman in mind, they just wrote it. And I said to the producers, like, thank you for giving me this, because the idea that a trans woman can be an action star has not yet occurred to anyone outside of this project. And when it does, it's going to blow their minds. So I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff. Like, and I can't...
That's great.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, what a headline.
And it's...
Non-stop fighting. That's a teaser.
Yeah, non-stop fighting. And it's exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to be doing, because I remember when I did Django, I had a blast on Django. It was a lot of fun. But I kept saying to the producers, like, I can ride horses, I can shoot guns, I can fight. Like, put me... Because I got my start doing physical theatre and doing Shakespeare. I think my first Shakespeare role was Ferdinand in The Tempest. And I had to when I graduated drama school, I did touring Shakespeare and like sword fighting on stage outside and stuff. So that's where I got my start, like learning to ride horses and all the rest of it. You know, doing the sort of very dashing Tom Hiddleston thing, even with that thing I used to have on my face was very...
Is that affirming, going back to your roots of how you started in theatre?
It really
but
is.
As yourself,
it
as
really
Abigail.
Is. Really, I like being buff. It's really nice. Sometimes on the tube when people are struggling with suitcases, I'm like, can I help you with that? And they go, oh no, I couldn't possibly. I'm like,
just swing it over the back of your head. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Supertran away.
Supertran.
Yeah, your friendly neighborhood trans.
That's our new franchise, Supertran.
So yeah, it's amazing, and it's exactly the kind of thing that I want to be doing.
Good. I also want to talk about Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend, your film. And I want to ask what the experience was like, not just starring in the movie, but also writing and producing as part of it.
Yeah, so, 1 second. Excuse me.
Superhero cough.
Thank you, yeah. So when I wrapped on House of the Dragon season 2, I was lamenting with my best friend Morgana, who's in the film with me. I was saying, Morgana, I don't have anything lined up. The industry's really quiet right now. And she was like, why don't you just write something? Like you wrote The Prince a couple of years ago, the theatre show that I did. Why don't you just write something else? And I was like, oh yeah, I just write. Do you want to be in it? She was like, yeah, sure. So I wrote this script about these two old friends who are meeting up for the first time, and one of them's become a vampire because she's dating Count Dracula. And it's all very problematic and like very sort of messed up and abusive. And I pitched it to Nebula, the streaming service. And I said, hey, what about this? And they also produced The Prince, and The Prince made profit before it even opened. So I got about halfway through the sentence, hey, do you guys want it? Yes. Yes, whatever you got. Yeah, we'll do it. So Nebula greenlit it, and then all their notes were really great, actually. I love working with them. Valentina V was our awesome director. She came on and gave loads of great notes on the script. Within a few months, we had like a really, really cool, solid script that we kept revising throughout rehearsals. And then even on set, there were little tweaks here and there that were improv, things that Morgana and Brandon Rogers brought to their characters. Brandon is an amazing comic performer, so we were very, very glad to have him on. And yeah, it was really nice, actually. I mean, it's a really nice, welcoming atmosphere with Nebula. So,
I mean, I hope you got to sit and feel proud of yourself at that moment, because obviously you've done a lot of writing for Philosophy Tube, but it must have been such a different experience writing and creating something from scratch.
Yeah.
But then you get to be part of something on Nebula.
Yeah, it was amazing, actually, especially when we went to the cinema to see the premiere of Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend, and Morgana hadn't seen it yet. I'd seen an early cut, so I sort of knew what to expect. She was terrified.
Oh, that must have been such a nice moment watching.
It was. I was slightly embarrassed though, because I was sitting behind my parents, and there's this exchange where Morgana's character says, does Dracula know you sleep with other men? And I say, we have a deal. I only let them fuck me in the mouth and pussy. And I was sat behind my father as the 15-foot high version of me said this, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, the parents' heads just bow.
My dad just heard about what anal sex is for the first time from me. That's So that was slightly unusual. I'm not sure my parents really know what sex is. Presumably they have some inkling, but you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was amazing.
I can relate on that. My mum said that she told all of her friends to watch Sex Ed.
Yeah.
And then if you haven't watched it, I have a sex scene in it, and I literally say, I love being inside you.
Hell yeah!
So having her friends watch her daughter say, I love being inside you, a little bit of a thing to go back and explain.
Yes.
When she turned up to the next coffee morning, she was like, Oh, yeah, you watched it. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, yeah, I've watched some bits. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had to have that line in House of the Dragon where I say to Jefferson, I have to go, I want you to fuck my wives. And so
Yeah, that's iconic.
all of my parents watched that scene. I'm like,
That's my girl.
yeah.
Perfect. I'm unlocked my phone. And have you found it hard to exist as a trans woman in the world of TV and film? As we said, when you went to acting school and everything, that was drama school was before you transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel a shift? I know you mentioned that actually you thought it would be like the end of your career.
Yeah.
But what have been the nice surprises as a trans woman in film and TV?
I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry who are just really, really cool. At the end of the day, like, a lot of people are there to do the job, and they're professional, and they don't care what you've got going on. A lot of sometimes they don't even know. And so it's actually been nice. The sets that I've been on and the rehearsal spaces that I've been in, people have just been totally, totally chill. I've also been fortunate to do a lot of my big roles, like on Star Wars and House of the Dragon. I've been working for Americans. I don't know if you've worked for a lot of Americans in your career, but they tend to be just pretty chill. Well, at least the ones who come over here are. They tend to just kind of like get it a bit more. So, in fact, when I said to one of the producers on House of the Dragon, like, thank you for casting me in this, she was like, oh, yeah, like, we didn't even, like, think about that at all. Like, I think maybe my kid might be trans or something. I don't know. Like, we'll let them figure it out. Like, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. You were awesome. Yeah, whatever. They don't really care. So it's been nice to have those surprises. I mean, I can really count the number of times there's been a sort of problem on the fingers of one hand. Actually, most of the time it's been fine. Misogyny is not great. You know, newsflash, everybody. Gets old real fast. Not a big fan of that one. Put me down as a no on misogyny. So that sucks.
Yeah, I said I wanted to be a woman. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. It's like, no. Oh, the terms and conditions. Oh, no. It's in the fine print. We didn't read this out. Yeah, the gender clinic, they give you that one, and then you click agree, and then you don't read it.
Agree.
No,
Crap.
yeah, actually, sometimes I find that it's just being a tall woman is the thing that affects it more. The T in LGBT stands for tall now. That actually affects it more, because I used to get sent up for a lot of romantic lead roles for like wife and girlfriend and stuff because of my cheekbones. And then they'd go, you're too tall, because they won't let you have it if you're taller than the guy. So on Django, part of the reason I got the role on Django was because Matthias is 6'4", and so it didn't. And even then, they made me stand a step down from him to do the kind of that stuff. The other reason I got the audition for Django is because I did do the audition naked. So I need to explain this now immediately. There was a scene in the audition for Django. The audition scene was a scene where Django comes into, my character's name was Jess. Django comes into Jess's room in the middle of the night to ask a favor. And I decided to just make a really bold choice with it and play it as like, okay, I'm going to play this as like, oh, cowboy, you've come into my room in the middle of the night. And I'm not entirely upset that you're here. You know, I just decided to play it a little bit sexy. And so I filmed the self-tape just naked, wrapped in a bedsheet, and did it very kind of like,
That's a choice.
That is a choice.
That's memorable.
It is, yes. And I got the part on that particular occasion, yeah. So yeah, that's part of
Yeah,
what
like,
I got.
was it because I was great, or was it because I was naked? No.
Yeah. Well, they said, well, you got it. We'll see you in Transylvania in 3 weeks. And I was like, fantastic, great.
Yeah. Now, I feel like I have to touch on Philosophy Tube as we have a little bit.
Sure.
As I'm sure most people here, and most people under the age of 40, to be honest, have watched at least one of your videos. And I just wanted to know what made you create a channel dedicated to philosophy?
Well, so philosophy was my first degree. When I was at school, in high school, I really wanted to go to drama school straight away. But my parents said, oh, no, you know, there's never been, we're a very academic family. They said, maybe just go and get a degree in something first, so you've got something to fall back on. So I was like, okay. I really liked philosophy at the time. I was good at it. And it also didn't close any doors. I hadn't yet done that calculus I said earlier of like going through everything and figuring out what I really wanted to do. So I said, I'm going to go study philosophy. And I was in the final year to pay the old tuition fees before the government tripled them, and I think now it's even higher. And I thought, that's just really unfair. You know, I had friends who couldn't afford to go to university anymore. And I realized how lucky I was. And then I got there and started studying philosophy and realized that so much of it is already very highfalutin, very sort of ivory tower. And I felt that it was in need of just being given out to the masses. So my original plan was just to film my lectures and put them on YouTube. And the university was like, you can't do that. And so I just decided to stand in front of a camera in my bedroom, a crappy little digital camera, and just say, here's what I learned today, and I had to pay for it, and you didn't. So there you go. And over time, over the last 12, 13 years, the show has really sort of evolved, and now it has characters and sketches, and I make more what you'd probably now call video essays, and I'm still kind of tinkering with the format. And then when I graduated drama school, I started putting more acting into the show, using characters and sketches and stuff, and like fabulous costumes, just to sort of make it more fun and accessible.
And I will say, you were one of the first channels on YouTube that I saw that made kind of video essay content. And I talk about this a lot with my friends who are in academia, that it is often kind of, as you said, like it's inaccessible and it's deliberately elitist almost. And I think being able to then like take what you've learned and those ideas and those stories and make them accessible to other people who, as you were learning, like friends that then, oh, you can't have access to this now because it's 2 years on or however many years on and the fees are changing or whatever it may be. And I love that channel became dedicated to that, just like education and fun.
Yeah, I try to make it still sort of accessible and educational to everyone. I'm still tinkering around with the formula. I have the big dial of how fancy philosophy tube is, and I'm like, I'm turning the dial up and down and looking back at the audience like The Price is Right, just trying to figure out like how fancy do we get? No, less fancy now. I certainly didn't invent the video essay though. It was people like Lindsay Ellis who invented it first and foremost with talking about film theory and movie analysis and so on. And then Natalie Wynn kind of reinvented it for philosophy. And then I sort of figured out a way to make it sustainable, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, it's changed a lot over the years, as you said, like it's evolved with you.
Yeah.
And one of those things was you came out publicly.
Yeah, I thought that would be the end of the career. I really did. I thought, God, this is it. And at that point, I'd done Philosophy Tube for 9 or 10 years. And I was like, oh, man, this has been such a good run, but this is probably going to be it. And then I came out, and that video trended at #1 on YouTube and made headlines in 5 languages, and trended on Twitter back before it was for Nazis. When that was kind of I'm trending on Twitter, like, oh, great, as opposed to, oh God, I'm trending on Twitter. So there was that, and then it just sort of kept going. Really, people really liked it, and even in the years since I came out, I think my presentation and the way that I present the show too have changed. But people have stuck with it, which is incredibly moving. It already had a big queer following because I deliberately made it queer and trans inclusive for a good few years before I came out publicly. And also there's the fun game so I was actually out and transitioning long before I came out on the show. And there's the fun game of like all the trans people in my audience, I think they knew something was up for about a year beforehand. Because I used to go into the studio and like do press-ups and put on a man's jacket. And then I would sort of do this and say, hello, welcome to Philosophy Tube, we're talking about... And I think a lot of people watching the show were just like, come on, what's it? Your skin looks great. Like, what's...
Yeah, something's changed.
Something's going on
What's
here.
beneath that big jacket?
Yeah, nothing. Nothing.
I will say it was a really powerful... I will say it was a really powerful moment though. And I remember when that video was trending and everywhere for those few days, I didn't really know any trans people in my life because I grew up in Devon and I didn't have that many queer people in my community and in my space. So having representation like you was actually like so affirming and beautiful and encouraging and hopeful. And
thank you.
Do you think did you receive a lot of support in that vein that made you think, oh, this is cool that I've done this?
Yeah, it's still people come up to me. A lot of people came out because of that video. That one clip of me coming out from backstage to David Bowie. It was a nightmare to get the rights to David Bowie's music, but I did. That one clip, people say that's what did it for them. I can't take all the credit for that though. Like the crew did an amazing job on that episode, and Reese Tees is a really good friend of mine. He's the actor I hired to play me in quotes for the first half of that video, which some people did not realize that wasn't me. Some people think that is like me doing a kind of switch behind the scenes.
Hey,
but actually for the first half of the video, that is an actor playing me, Reese. He's been one of my closest friends for years. He did an amazing job. So it's him in the thumbnail too.
He knew how to do the perfect impression.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. I mean,
he's like, I've studied this.
Reese and I worked together on a couple of things, and we were working together on a stage show of Dracula, which never ended up happening. Some of it went into Dracula's ex-girlfriend, so Dee Dee kind of lived. But Reese was in that. I was playing Dracula, and Reese was Arthur Homewood. And then I came out gradually to my inner circle of friends first, and then I said to Reese, I was like, I'm going to be coming out publicly soon. Like, would you want to play me? And I remember he just looked at me and said, I'd be honored, Abby, I'd love to. And he smashed it. So, well, yeah, at least half the credit has to go to him and the rest of the crew.
And more recently, Philosophy Tube has also moved into doing a bit more historical and history and philosophy, and which in current context is pretty critical. And that is why we're celebrating things like Trans Past History Week this week.
I'm working on a double, maybe 2.5 episode about Thomas Jefferson at the moment, and like American Indians and the founding of the USA, and like how it's gotten to where it is.
Yeah, and in the current climate, are there other like kind of philosophical, historical moments that stand out that you think we should be reflecting on?
Yeah, so I'm toying with an idea. I'm not committing to this, but I've been toying with an idea of doing like a history of conversion therapy in Britain, which would sort of tie into somebody just made a great face over there, just went, ooh, and nodded. So maybe I'm onto something.
Yeah.
I'm toying with that idea. It would be pretty heavy, but I like to do usually not more than one episode per year on Philosophy Tube that's like, it's the gay one. Because I don't like to make them all about being trans. Because if that's what you want, if you just want LGBTQ plus stuff, there's other channels that do that really well. Philosophy Tube is intentionally sort of broad thing. But I like to try and have one a year, like my NHS video, or the one I did about the police a year ago or so, with the latex bikini, that was kind of about sort of queer stuff in Canada. But yeah, a history of conversion therapy in Britain is a topic that's been swirling around in my brain for a while. I'll see.
Circling back, talking about writing.
Yes.
I did a talk at Cambridge Uni this year.
Flex.
And someone asked me, flex. Yeah, sorry, I just happened to mention it. And someone asked me a really intelligent question, and I just thought I would love to ask you this same question. They asked me if I could turn any classic novel or historical novel, because I was talking about my love for English literature, into a trans storyline.
Oh.
What would I choose?
Into a trans storyline.
And I would love to know your adaptation.
Into a trans storyline specifically?
Into a trans storyline, yeah.
I have already done it. It's called The Prince. I did a stage play a few years ago where I took Shakespeare and made it trans. I kind of, at the time, I didn't realize I was contributing to a genre, but there's I Saw the TV Glow, The People's Joker, and The Prince are stories about what it's like being a closeted trans woman that are also love letters to the media we enjoyed as children. So I Saw the TV Glow as like Buffy, and People's Joker was like DC Comics, and I went for the extremely relatable, down-to-earth, open to the masses choice of making it about Shakespeare. So I wrote a play that was about characters in the Shakespeare multiverse realizing that they're stuck inside a play and breaking out. And most of it is written in original blank verse that weaves in and out of Henry IV Part 1 and out of Hamlet. And I wrote a lot of original Shakespearean verse for it, which led to the best compliment I've ever received in my life, where I took a draft of the play to our dramaturge, Donica O'Brien, who's a fantastic Olivier Award-winning director. And I sat down with him at our first meeting, and he said, there's parts of this where I can't tell what's Shakespeare and what's you. And I said, Donnie, I want to frame that, and I'm going to put that on my wall. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a flex if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, I was
The
so...
trans Shakespeare.
I
Abigail
still
Thorn.
feel good about what Donnie said. I was like, hell yeah. I think one of the reviewers said something like that too, and I was just like,
yeah, that's a hinge prompt if I've
send
ever
that
heard
to my
one.
mum. Yeah. So yeah, I already made it. For a trans adaptation specifically, yeah, Shakespeare, absolutely.
Just
I'd do it again.
Any, all of the characters.
I took all of it.
Yeah.
There was a bit of Julius Caesar in there. There was a bit of Henry IV. There was a bit of Hamlet too.
Yeah, and I love that kind of like vehicle of them realizing that they're stuck in the play, being that kind of representation and imagery to kind of represent transness. That's really interesting.
I would love to play Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. That's a dream role of mine, just because I think trans femme Shylock would go hard right now. Yeah. I think that would be kind of like, if you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Trans femme Shylock would go hard. Trans femme Coriolanus also would go hard. I remember when the Supreme Court decision got handed down, I posted that speech from Coriolanus, like, you common cry of curs, whose breath I hate as reek of the rotten fens. I was just like, it was very cathartic. So yeah, that's what I'd love to do.
I knew you'd be the best person to ask that question. My answer was,
what was it?
Was Rebecca.
Oh, hell
Daphne
yeah.
du Maurier, because I
Hell
love
yeah.
Rebecca, and there's been a lot of like great adaptations for it. And I feel like something about the storyline of it feels very trans femme to me, because I think I often relate to the protagonist's feeling of like having this like idea of femininity and womanhood that I can never reach and I can never quite become. And then the end twist being like, no, you aren't the woman. You're more than a woman. Like this idea of womanhood and femininity doesn't exist. It's all based on lies. And like, I feel like I'm finally getting to that stage of my own transition where I'm going, oh, I always felt like inadequate because I never reached this level of womanhood or femininity. And then you're like, oh, okay, no one feels like that, cis or trans.
I tell you what, it would be nice to get an adaptation of Orlando, where Orlando was actually played by a trans woman. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Now, are you feeling a bit more hopeful about the future after so many people have come forward in support of your transition publicly, and even for myself after the Supreme Court ruling after the Supreme Court specification that happened last month? I feel like so many people have come forward in solidarity. It kind of created a sense of fear, and it's a very hard time, but are you feeling a little bit hopeful as well at the amount of solidarity that's also come forward?
Yeah, I have to say the march a couple of days after the judgment came down was really inspiring, seeing all the different groups that were there, like migrant groups and disability activists and unions too. Seeing statements by trade unions, always, including my trade union, Equity, the Actors Union, they made a statement about it, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, proud to be part of Equity. So that was lovely. And texts from colleagues and stuff really helped. I had a real moment of, I can't tell whether it's genuine serenity or whether I just snapped and became the Joker. Shortly after the Supreme Court judgment, when I realized that if you describe them as the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom, they sound terribly imposing. But then I was like, wait a minute. This is 5 old straight people. They're all cis. One of them used to write homophobic documents for the Church of Scotland. Questionable. Locked in a room, refused to speak to any trans people. I was like, yeah, of course they wrote that. Of course they wrote that. And I had this moment of serenity. I was like, oh, wait. These people are fucking idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. I have no clue. Like, they've tried to write rules for queer life, which is like, yeah, way to miss the point on that one. And B, like, of course what they came up with was garbage. And I'm like, I'm just not going to pay attention to these people, to be honest. I think they're fools. I think they're absolute fools. I don't respect them. I didn't vote for them.
I think this is a really great platform to kind of put forward that message of like, oh no, these people are fools. And as you say, like, their kind of status feels imposing and it feels threatening, but actually, like, it doesn't necessarily change the landscape of support that we actually have in day-to-day life. And like, I think it's more the fear of what's to come than actually what has happened and what is happening. And I think that's really important to remember, so we don't just like lose hope and like start feeling small and like we need to change ourselves, because actually it's more about that. That's the outcome that they really want, us to feel small and irrelevant or like endangered, but actually we're not.
Of
we're
course,
as strong and connected as ever.
Well, I think the libidinal release of fascism is the exercise of power for its own sake, right? So they partly the cruelty is just kind of the point for some of them. I think some cis people are just ignorant and like they know not what they do. But no, there are a handful who are just like, you know, bloodless ghouls who just enjoy hurting people. But I think, the thing that does worry me a little bit about the Supreme Court judgment is if you want to use the sort of technical, lawyerly language, it's what it brought the profession into disrepute or undermined public confidence in the law. That's what it's done. Because now I'm just like, yeah, I think these people are fools. I wouldn't listen to them on anything now. I wouldn't trust them to run a bath now, never mind a court. Because I'm like, how could you make that kind of judgment without speaking to a single trans person? Like, who do you think you are? Do you know what I mean? And then there's all these people who are like, it's very, very serious to question the Supreme Court. I'm like, yeah, I know. I know it is. I'm going to do it anyway.
While laughing, yeah. Finish.
Yeah.
What words of wisdom could you give to anyone who is trans plus, who feels like either the social media or film industry is inaccessible to them, as I'm sure we've both felt at various times in our life?
Feels like it is inaccessible. Inaccessible is a strong word.
Difficult.
well, if you think getting into the entertainment industry is difficult, then I'm like, congratulations, you will
Yeah.
need a good head on your shoulders, and you are correct. Like, that is probably good. Yeah, it is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to get in or to stay in, especially not right now. Like, God, I wouldn't want to be starting out right now. I feel sorry for the kids who graduate in drama school this year, because I'm just like, what am I graduating into? It's just like, congratulations. Here's a sort of blasted crater in the ground, and we hope to build something in it at some point. It is hard. It is really, really hard. But I don't know anyone who got into acting because it's easy. I mean, I'll be really. I've said this to managers. I've said this to agents and casting directors. I don't really care about money, and I don't really care about fame and attention. What's that? Henry V, like, by God, I care not who feeds upon my cost. I care not if men my garments wear. Such outward things dwell not in my desires. But if it be a sin to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. I care about getting better at acting, because it's the art form to which I've dedicated my life. And I believe that acting is not only socially important, but, like, if you really want to get real with it, spiritually important. Because I look around at the world and I see so many problems, and I see so many people despairing, and I see the same problems in the 21st century as we had in the 20th, 19th, 18th, and I see so many people who feel stuck and trapped, who feel like they cannot change. And what is it that you and I do? We change for a living, in front of people's eyes. We change our accent, our bodies, give yourself a characteristic, move in a different way, take on a different perspective or ideology or skill set. What do? We change. We are the living proof that human beings can change. You and I, probably a little bit more than most actors, actually. You know.
Yeah, I'm good at a transition, yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. As somebody at drama school told me, Shakespeare's all about the transitions. And I was like, should file that one away.
Adding to the Abigail Thorn is Shakespeare Reborn allegation. Yeah.
My birthday is off of Shakespeare's by one day. I've never forgotten it. Yeah, so what do we do as actors? We change. We are the proof that people can change. And I believe in my heart, spirit, whatever that is a really important thing to be part of. So that's why I dedicated my life to that art form. And I see it not as a career or as an opportunity to sell merch and stuff like that. Like I see it as a calling. Maybe that's a little bit like drama school, pretentious, swanky for some people. But genuinely, I see it as a quasi-spiritual calling, and so that's why I do it. And so if somebody is thinking, oh wow, the acting industry is really hard and tough to get into, I'm like, yeah it is, but I am compelled to do it regardless. And if you feel that calling in you, then honor it. It's a gift.
Yeah, you know what, that's brought up in me actually. Like, I always felt a resistance when people used to kind of portray that actors were like inherently good liars or good pretenders, because I actually think acting is about like embracing oneself like to the extreme, and it's actually more about truth telling than it is about dishonesty and being disingenuous.
Truth in different circumstances, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually think that is kind of, if people are worried, if they're trans or another minority that feels like they can't get into it because of who they are and because of their identity. Actually, like, for me as a trans person, I think it's part of my magic, because I had to kind of like radically embrace who I was. And I don't know if you relate to this as well. And I think that's literally what acting is, radically embracing who you are and allowing yourself to express parts of you that in everyday life there isn't space for that.
Yeah, definitely. Someone would be like, well, could you in another universe be a sort of traumatized vampire girl? Yes, you could. Could you in another universe be a psycho cannibal pirate? Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
You never know what you could be.
There's something freeing, because obviously you aren't those things.
Yeah.
But then actually you
Of course
probably
not.
have more. Yeah. As far as we know. Yeah. On the record, you're not those things.
No.
But actually, it probably allows you, by being a vampire or whatever it is, it means that you can actually embrace parts of yourself that you don't get to in everyday life.
Definitely, yeah.
I like that. What a good note to end it on. So thank you for speaking to me, Abigail. It has been truly an honour just to hear your perspective on our industry and your experiences within the trans plus community, as well as someone that I definitely look up to and have brain envy for.
You sweetheart.
I will always be a fan, and I'm very proud of everything that you continue to to accomplish. And for those of you at home and to everyone here, thank you for listening to the QueerAF podcast recorded live in front of our gorgeous audience at the Trans Plus History Week community event. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Do you know who Lynn Conway is? Without her work on the microchip, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast.
If you want to change the future, start living as if you're already there.
Did you know that there are genderqueer ballroom voguing scenes in both India and Wales?
As an institution, if you could give anybody a hope to live, you have achieved the greatness.
And how much do you know about the eccentric Reed Erickson, who funded research into dolphin telepathy and pioneering gender-affirming surgeries when no one else would?
Most important book, The Transsexual Phenomenon.
This season on the award-winning QueerAF podcast, we're back for more of the history lesson we never had with Trans Plus History Week. 6 Trans Plus audio producers are here with stories from trans history to help us understand the queer world we live in now and how we can march for our future. Knowledge of our past is fundamental for our liberation. So we're back with our trademark stamp, investing in queer and trans plus creative talent, supporting them to change the media, and yes, telling you beautiful stories. Look out in your podcast app for a special live recording with Philosophy Tube and House of Dragon's Abigail Thorn with Netflix's Sex Education's Anthony Lexa, out on May 7th, and the whole series coming out in June and all the way through Pride season. We are QueerAF, and yeah, so are you.